And it was a fine balance because we shot on volume wall for a lot of scenes, but we shot also on sound stages and we shot outside in the real world. So we had to merge all this. The main task was to make the virtual wall look realistic as possible, to ask the Met to be able to have like the place for at least 2 days. I mean, you're talking about extreme challenges there. And we worked really hard to make it work.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hitchings of Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify their skill set. You can learn more on filmmakeru.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment on our YouTube channel. Every week, we interview a film professional, and this week we are joined by Pierre Gill, whose works include HBO Max's Dune Prophecy, Disney Plus's Percy Jackson, and Netflix Dead Boy Detectives. Welcome this week, Pierre. So great to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
So we're going to be discussing Disney Plus's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the first season of that, which you ended up shooting, I believe, 5 episodes, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
What was your visual approach to the series, and how did you balance kind of the modern setting with the mythical elements? For example, the first episode, I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. You really had to pull the viewer kind of into Percy's world and give them clues about the story.
Yes, I think that the first discussion we had, like with the showrunner and producer Dan Schott and John Steinberg, was to keep this show as real as possible, realistic. So not make it like a superhero. That was the main goal. Try to, talk to the audience in a very like, close way to be, emotionally close to all the kids, the teenagers, everybody, adults also watching the show. So I think that the first thing was to try to find that path that doesn't go over the top, that doesn't make them like unreal characters.
Yeah, Percy is very relatable, and he's relatable in the books as well. So I think that the team did a great job making kind of Percy seem not superhero-esque, but a kid that was kind of cast into this world.
And it was a fine balance because we did a lot of like it was not an easy task, I would say. It was challenging because we shot on a volume wall, the virtual production for a lot of scenes, but we shot also on sound stages. We built sets and we shot outside in the real world. So we had to merge all this. Um, so the main task was to make the virtual wall look as real as possible or as like realistic as possible. I think we ended up doing a good job. It was a big challenge, of course. Um, But it starts like this. You see him at the Met, exterior Met, at the museum in New York, and that's all virtual. It does nothing is real.
Had me fooled, Pierre, because I rewatched the first that first scene again yesterday. And I thought I was like, oh gosh, logistically, that must have been a very, very hard shoot. Um,
Exactly.
totally got me.
That's exactly why we did it on virtual production because it was like virtually impossible to shoot for real.
Yeah,
On New
I
York,
did
close
my
the
first one.
street, just to close the street, just to ask the Met to be able to have like the place for at least 2 days. I mean, you're talking about extreme challenges there in terms of like money, organization, and all that. So the other challenge was to make it in a virtual wall, which has never been done, to be honest with you. I think that any virtual production up to the point at this moment is mostly sci-fi, and it's the core of it, or a car or poor man process, we call it, for car shot driving stuff and stuff like that. But most of it would be sci-fi-ish. So there's a place where it's okay not to be real behind, and the audience doesn't mind, doesn't care. It's good. Sci-fi is sci-fi. We can embrace whatever. That's why like Mandalorian, everything. It's really, really well achieved. But it's still there's a notch of like, no, it's not real. But when you get into that type of situation, it was a very, very big task. And we worked really hard to make it work. And we like they went and shot the Met exterior. They did like a stitch. It's called a stitch. So it's a huge plate of this the Met. I relight it with all these artists in prior to shoot. So I light it virtually on 3D with like all the computer world, bring back the sun, put shadows and everything. Check the color, everything, and then we were putting it on the wall, testing it. So then you end up with a location. So what you see is this. So it's a location built prior to, and then you put the actors inside,
Mhm.
and you have to light them to try to match this. It's very interesting. It comes with a lot of little like particular way to do that, but
That's really
I think we succeeded pretty good.
I've been a camera person for 30 years and I fell in love with cinema. I heard there was free film school in France and I wanted to get into the French film school. I really didn't know anything at the time, but I knew at least how to take pictures. So I said, I'll try for the image department. And then when I miraculously got into the French film school, I fell in love with working with the camera. You're following what's going to be in the movie. So that immediacy that the camera allows is what I loved from the beginning. I'm Kirsten Johnson, and this is my course about documentary cinematography.
you were shooting a lot of the scenes on via the virtual production. How did you incorporate the CGI elements, such as the gods or the monsters, into that when you were shooting on the virtual wall?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is very important is I base all my research and my thinking about cinematography because people think, oh, you're a cinematographer, you have great ideas, you're gonna do that. No, you don't do this. You try to work for the project. I had a virtual wall. So what I've done is I tested my camera, my lenses, everything on the virtual wall to find the best camera and lens and mix that I could use on that wall. And then I apply this everywhere else after. So that was my main priority as a that was my winning aspect that I have to make sure it's gonna work.
Mhm.
So from that, I had like all this camera amazing gear that was actually quite nice on the wall. And you don't even only mix like the gods and the virtual wall, you mix the soundstage, the real location. And I'm gonna just jump quickly into the car sequence where they're inside the car and they have this accident. If you look at it again, the car is all in the virtual wall. There's some exterior shot outside, real shots of the car driving. Then it crashed, and then it gets into a ditch,
Mhm.
and Grover comes out kicking the window. This is all on stage. It's not outside. It's all built. So it's not even a virtual wall anymore. It's a real set with grass, with water, but inside that you have to light from outside. And then they walk out of the car. They get, Mom, are you okay? And then they walk and they get into that nice scene I like that is lit by the car, and they're all like, and they get in the field where the Minotaur is going to come and chase them. They get on that field, and this is all virtual suddenly. Even the trees behind them, it's all, nothing is real, but it's not VFX. And when I say that, it means it's not made in post. We built it before, and it's how we shoot it. So this is the path that is going on. So I mean, when I shot, like for example, Mrs. Dodd or transform like in the Met next to the fountain, and she transformed. Well, I mean, basically, it's more like the how do you say that? The conventional way of doing. So, well, conventional of like modern world. So we have Mrs. Dodd coming as a real character, and then after we shoot her with a motion capture outfit that they're gonna be able to take her in post. And after in VFX, they're gonna add all these layers of like wings and everything. So they're gonna base their lighting on my lighting. So for me, I don't have that much to do in a certain way. Also, on that scene, for example, it was like nothing happened because he's the only one who sees that. So nothing became extraordinary. We had discussion, which is the fun part where, this is like where it's the process of filmmaking. So at one point it was like we had discussion like, okay, the sky will become dark and the light will change and she's gonna transform. And then the showrunner, Dan Schott, was like, no, Pierre, we just keep it normal and natural, which is also an interesting choice because then you end up like with just him alone seeing something that nobody sees.
Yeah, because Percy kind of questions his mental stability at that point because nobody else sees this. It's almost just a kind of like a little bit of a flash of something. So it's a really interesting choice for sure. Now you spoke about the showrunner a little bit. How did you work maybe with the director or the showrunner to decide on the tone and the atmosphere of the piece or of specific scenes?
Dan Schott is very hands-on. He's the main showrunner, and John Seibert is like the main, also the writer producer. And he has a clear idea. He was more in his writing room all the time, so he was the person in the dark. But their vision was clear. It's like they said, Pierre, let's make it as real as you can, as natural as possible. So of course, for me, the challenge was I embraced it, and my pitch, because when I got the interview, I did a mood board, and in my mood board, there's a lot of like very beautiful natural references of lighting. So I embraced that idea right away. The only thing I had to adjust is because on the virtual production, I cannot do exactly the style of lighting that I want to do. It's physically not possible. So it's a big compromise, and then you have to adjust, but it's part of life, There's always compromise to make, and I would have gone much more moodier if I could in the opening scene, for example. I wanted to have the sun low in the corner, come down on them, make it much, much different, but it was physically not possible because the wall has some specific things that are you cannot fight these things, and especially you have a schedule to follow and all this. So it's like that. This is how it's being built at the end for the real part of it. It's like we wanted to, but we kept it natural. It's very nice. I'm very happy. But I had to again adjust a lot from that volume. So the volume for me was dictating a lot because I was cutting from that volume to outside. So sometime in the exterior location, I was adding a bit more front light instead of keeping it more like sunny or more moody that I would have loved to do sometimes. But I was making sure I can balance from the volume. It was the main point. It's like the point that you follow. Um, but basically, to answer your question, is shorter. Is like the main goal was to keep it realistic, not to go over the top, not to make like some artificial effects or lighting. Most of the time, every time there's a god, and you see just by the costumes, it shows the god they come in and they're wearing just a normal shirt and they look completely normal. So it goes with that, of course, because most of these uh, fantasy show, they always dress with like costumes, and then the light becomes surrealistic. So it's a teamwork about like a decision made at the beginning, and it's like a teamwork about everybody doing this.
how closely did you work with the production designer and the costume designers to create this cohesive world? You just mentioned we see the gods and they look like normal people. I'm thinking about Dionysus, how he's in his button-up shirt, or Ares, how he looks like kind of, like a man that would be riding a motorcycle with his leather jacket and everything else. Were you involved in those conversations, or did you shoot the gods in a different type of way, possibly?
I was not involved in the choice of costume at all. The only thing I am doing always is I'm trying to gather production department, costume department, makeup really early in the process, and we do a very basic test. Let's put colors, whatever you want, the yellow, the blue. What are your ideas about for costume? What is your color palette? I do this also to get the production designer to bring paint board with different type of like swatches of color. I do this also to make sure because they link together. They do talk together, but sometimes I've seen it in some production that the cyan tint is there and the costume is here, and it creates a problem because this one has too much magenta and this is more cyan. And then when you get in post or you get on shoot, it shows a lot. And I am the director of photography, and I'm in charge of like putting this back into the magic box, the camera. And it happened to me one time. We had this gorgeous dress, and the costume designer worked on that, and it was an orange. And I told her, like, did you see the actress? Because she's like she had black skin, but I said, I think I didn't see her yet, but I think her skin, because you have black skin that are, sorry, bluish, some are like orange, some are a bit greenish. And this is a big thing. And she had a skin that was black into the greenish tint. And then the dress was orange with some magenta. So it made her face come out more green. These are details that are super important. She ended up redo the dress, just to tell you. So what I do with the two departments for me is critical. I'm trying to at least link them together, link us together, and also tell them, oh, this is how the warm light will react on your red. This is how the cold light, and since also I'm doing some I'm creating LUTs and things to be able to create the image later on. It gives them an idea, and I also talk a lot about the contrast because this is a big deal. It's like it's always too dark, It's like, no matter what, it's like they're gonna have like, oh, it's a blue, but the blue is too deep, and I'm like, it's gonna come out like black. This is the reality. So I'm trying really hard to be there and to help to make my life much easier also at the end, and also have an ensemble, meaning all these departments when they meet, makeup included and hair. So it's basically hair, makeup, costume, wardrobe, and sets. Then the light goes on this, and then usually it works.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career.
Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about. I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
So I want to ask you about Camp Half-Blood. So Percy gets chased by the Minotaur, and then he gets introduced in the beginning of episode 2. He's in Camp Half-Blood. And can you talk about how you kind of visually introduced some of the other demigods?
Okay, so it's a good question because it's a bit of a task because everybody's wearing an orange t-shirt. And this is not simple because usually what you do is the opposite. Your main characters are actually, let's say, orange, and everybody else is like, green. So you see them right away. So we introduced them, the characters in Camp Pavlov. I was trying a lot to bring the sun. That was a real location, most of it. Some of it is virtual, but a lot of it was real. Then you're chasing the real God, because on virtual production, I'm controlling the sky. But on the real location, I'm just waiting to see is it going to be sunny or cloudy, and we do the best we can. So I was trying to work a bit with more sun. I think it's there most of the time, which is nice. And also trying to isolate the new characters like Luke, everything by it's the lens, the framing, and this is where framing is super important. So you choose your lens properly, you put foreground, you block what you don't want to see, and you guide the eyes of the audience to go where they have to go. That's our job also. And light, it does that. We direct the eyes to a place, but lensing, framing is even more important than lighting, because it's where when you tell the story, like this camera that it's just my MacBook, but it's a wide shot, but it's still a language. So this could be a shot, and you decide to, like I'm too close, but then I'm too far, and then it's maybe it starts to go. So this is to center, this is there. So you guide, and here you see I have dynamic lines in the back. So the background is guiding me for you to look at me. So I'll go on the other side. It's not the same. So basically, is this you try to isolate them by lensing and trying to frame them, as dynamically as possible, because they all have the same color. So it's different than usual.
Yes, I asked that question because I noticed that they all have to wear the Camp Half-Blood, t-shirt. So I was like, I wonder how he did that. So thank you for that very much. And I'm glad to hear that that was a real location, because it's such a beautiful location.
Well, I mean, almost all of it is built, of course, inside. All these buildings, of course, they were not there. A production designer, Dan Hanna, built all this. But half of these buildings are virtual VFX. So we built half of the Camp Half-Blood. So all the other buildings are not real. So it's pretty impressive. This is Eric Henry, the VFX supervisor, who did a great job on doing that. But there's I just did a master class in university, and I was showing some stills of Percy, and I was like, oh, so was this real? No, that's not real. I don't even remember which building is real. But I remember, of course, the car, but some of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good job for that.
It's a fantastic job for that, for sure. But it's a great location, virtually and in reality. So I want to talk a little bit about episode 6. We take a zebra to Vegas, partly because I just wanted to say those words out loud. It's such a silly title, but I also wanted to talk about the lighting choices, because this is when they're in the casino, and everything is kind of stark, and there's a lot of purple. And can you talk a little bit about how the lighting played a kind of a role in the arc of the episode, or the emotional stakes of the episode?
Yeah, well, listen, I wanted to make it colorful. First of all, it's something also, generally speaking, the show has color in it. It's very fashionable right now. Things are monochromatic, they're desaturated. I don't mind color. I like it. And it's hard to embrace color because it can look cheesy. That's why people love it, to make it much monochromatic. If you look at the world that we live in right now, it's very monochromatic. Even my office is monochromatic. Uh, like 20 years ago, there was a lot of texture and color, and a lot. It went away, and it goes away also in TV shows, and you see it. If you pay attention to it, you see everything is as less as possible. Maybe it's Steve Jobs fashion. He started this with Apple, but um, me, I don't. I wanted to embrace color. I'm tired a bit about it. It has nothing to do about like how can I say that? You know, I could invent stories about oh why and this and that, but one of the thing is that no, I wanted to make sure color exists in the show. It's there pretty much, but in this location, well, we had fun, you know, as a team to create a casino because we started from nothing. And it was actually a bit of panic mode because the location we wanted to have, there was no real casino. First of all, you cannot shoot in a real casino most of the time. You cannot close down a casino. People go there and they make money. So we had to build it. The location was very difficult. So we ended up very last minute with a very, very different location. That was a big, empty, white office space that was just the construction was just finished. And then we had like meeting quickly. Okay, how do we do that? So we envisioned very quickly what to do. So then Hannah came. Okay, I'm gonna put tables here, and I'm gonna put a long carpet. Okay, and me, I need to light this, and we don't. There's a lot to shoot. We don't have time, so I need lights everywhere to make sure we can go through. So we built, you know, these lights over the table that are like golden and you put material around. So they're they're movie lights with like, you know, like covered. And also after there was windows everywhere. And you cannot deal with that because of the time of the day, because of like the rain, the sun, everything. So I said, no, it's good. They're very easy access. We're gonna black out everything. And we're gonna put color gels, and maybe that could be cool, and it's gonna become like a Las Vegas type of fun place where it gets you drunk a little bit, you know, and it's part of these casinos, like, and the story is this: they lose track of time. So I mean, you know, we didn't go like we didn't do an acid trip, but we tried to keep it like as a the color was part of this too, you know. It's and oh, and also what I tried to do because that casino we built it was quite big, but not big enough, impossible. So we reshot in the same place many times, and that's why it's colors because one place I decided, okay, it's gonna be purple. This scene will be purplish. This scene will be orangey. This scene will be more pinkish. So I was like changing the color of light in the same place, and we were moving table around, and then you get lost. That's how we make it. I hope it works. For me, it's difficult because I've shot there, so I know that it's always the same place. But it's. I think it did the job, and the choice of different color becomes almost practical. You know, to be able to get people lost and get us to get them because they were walking a lot and talking a lot. So that was a big challenge to achieve. So, and I wanted to have every room, but it was also like a fun part of like saying, okay, that's gonna be like the golden lounge, and that's gonna be like they have the virtual room. It's gonna be like pink, and I'm gonna put like purple and blues, and so it was this idea to try to go through and make it like colorful and Las Vegas-y feel.
Well, I think it did work. It reflects the book very, very well, that portion of the book, but it also felt like a much more expansive place. Like I would have never guessed it was, you know, a building of a floor of an office building. So
Oh yeah, it was like an empty white square corridor with an entrance. So we had that big entrance, which was actually empty with these two elevator escalator and a flat wall in front. And then we brought the car. We put screen also, that was nice. We put like big screens and we put content into this. And again, the trick about these windows is that I said, let's just test some opaque gels. And we're gonna get rid of all the problems. We're gonna black out the exterior. We can shoot at like anytime you want. We don't need to come here at night because it's all night, of course. So it was pretty good. And so outside was bright daylight, super sunny, and we were like controlled environment.
I'm curious, do you have a favorite scene from the series, either because like maybe it was a technical achievement or the way it turned out visually? Like, do you have a couple nuggets that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so one of my favorite scenes is really Montauk Beach, Harry's fight with Percy, because this is a very, very nice achievement of virtual wall. And I mean, it's so gorgeous and it's so really, really well achieved. At that point, we got very good with the virtual production. And we merged the background and the foreground very nicely. I mean, you would be amazed to see what it looks before and after as we shoot and what the camera sees, because it's quite unbelievable. I have a picture on my Instagram actually, which you see both the before and after shot. But it's not before and after, it's at the same time. It's what you see when you walk in a virtual stage, you're like, okay. And what the camera right there, my camera is linked to all these computer system to follow the image with my colorization and what it shows. It's very amazing. So this scene, I'm very, very, very proud of it because we work very closely again together. I work with ILM, we work with Jeff White to talk about the sand, the color, the sky. I asked them to have a sky that's very deep gray on one side, and the other side very open, like sunsetty, the side of the ocean. So for me, I could, control the light better. But I got them to devise me a system that I was controlling also the sky, so I could rotate the sky myself. So when I was coming into a close-up, I could put like, for example, that light here, I could put it like, just here, or so it's annoying. So I would like just push it and it would be there. So I was rotating the sky, controlling the sun, and making sure that the contrast was there. So this scene was like very, very, it was also the combination of choosing the right equipment, the good lens, the Cook anamorphic, 2 times anamorphic, the Sony Venice was the Sony Venice 2 just came out at this moment. And together it made a gorgeous mix that was capturing very nicely the image. And when we got to this point, to the Montauk Beach scene, yeah, we were pretty good. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that scene and check out.
yeah, it's unbelievable, seriously. And try to if you have a chance, go to my Instagram. There's like one little picture. It's Pierre Gill _DP. I'm really bad with Instagram, so I think it's that. But there's a little picture where you have like I did a split screen, so you have us actually the lighting setup, and you see exactly what it looks like and the shot, but there's no post. I mean, there is a little bit of post, of course. They have to tweak a few things. We have to erase like the virtual cameras and stuff, but it's very well achieved and it's very impressive.
I would have thought most of that was done in post. So I'm excited to go back and look at it and look at your Instagram um, photos about it as well. So do you prefer shooting practically, or at this point, do you prefer shooting in a virtual production environment?
I kind of start liking the virtual production a lot. I mean, it's very difficult and it has the big challenges. Um, I prefer to shoot in a real environment. It's always better and easier for us. But the thing is this, even on Dune Prophecy, at one point, I was telling the producer, oh, we should shoot this on a volume. We had some scene. Dune Prophecy was all real, like all real sets, with a bit of like set extension and blue screen, but 80% of it is all in camera. But sometimes I was like, hey, I would love to do that part of the script on a volume because I know our volume, I know exactly what to do with volume. But we could not do it. We didn't have the volume available. But after Percy, I really started to enjoy. I think that you gotta learn it to get into be able to do this properly. But it has a lot of like positive because, for example, we were able to shoot. We had like our actors were still very young at that point, like 12, 13. The hours are different. You cannot bring them at night to shoot from 4 a.m. to from midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't make any sense. You're gonna volume. You go at 8 o'clock in the morning. You go out at 8 at night. It's you don't care about the weather. It could be winter outside. Could rain. Nobody cares. If you do a sunset, if you like this scene that I talked about, the fighting, this is all shot in a period of like 3 days at least, because it was complicated. We have to but it's still the same sky. So you cannot do this on real location. You cannot do sunset on real location for a scene that is long. So it has a lot of advantage, and but it's a tool, and it's a tool that needs to grow, and we're still at the beginning of it. So it's gonna get like very important eventually.
I got one more question for you, Pierre. And what I want to know is what your guilty pleasure film or television show. It can be something new or old. It's just got to be something that you'll watch every time you see it, or maybe you come back to. Maybe it's like a comfort show or film.
Just one?
You can as many as you want.
I don't know. It's a trick question. Okay, I'll tell you what very quickly, because I work a lot, so I don't have time to watch television a lot. I think that Queen Gambit was one of my very favorite show recently. I think it was like so good, so well achieved. The language, the cinematography, the costume, the directing, it was really strong. I loved it so much. I think that's a good piece. And then for movies, I'm going back to, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I'm a Forrest Gump fan. So it's because I think because the construction of the movie is very interesting, very well achieved also. It's a film with a narrator that you travel in many places, but it's really well achieved. It's very emotionally nice, very strong. Yeah, so Forrest Gump is a very, very strong movie, I think. It's a movie I will watch many times.
Yeah, Forrest Gump was really kind of on the forefront of what was possible for visual effects as well. So at the time it was
Actually, well, that's a very, very good point. So basically, yeah, it was something that I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, okay, wait a minute. It was the first time, because that's at the very beginning of visual effects, okay? So every movie was only about we're going to explode the house, explode the car, everything was exploding. There was a huge fireball, it was VFX, oh, yay. And this was the first time I was like, oh, wait, actually, VFX are, what's the name, the actor, the captain, no legs. Oh, it's VFX. What? The tennis ball or the ping pong ball or the detail of like, oh, finally it's used for the very core of what VFX, could be used for. It's like very, very like brilliant little things. So yeah, that was like a big thing.
for sure. Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that. I haven't seen that in a few years. I really appreciate your time and your detailed answers to all our questions, Pierre. It was a pleasure talking to you. That's it for this week. You can check us out on filmmakeru.com or follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_you. I'm Jamie Hitchings. Thanks for watching. And thanks again, Pierre.